Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we decode the language of business. Today, we're diving into Duolingo's latest quarterly report. Will their dedication to language learning translate into profits, or will this be another lesson in corporate finance? Let's find out. This report shows us how Duolingo performed financially over the last 3 months. We'll look at the key numbers, what they mean, and what they might tell us about the company's future. This report covers Duolingo's performance for the 3 months that ended in March of 2025. It's like a snapshot of how the company was doing at that particular time. This is a 10Q form. Companies use this form to report their financials quarterly to the Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC. It's basically a report card for investors. Before we jump in, it's important to remember the forward-looking statements. This is where Duolingo tells us that they're making predictions about the future, but things could change. It's like saying, we think this will happen, but no promises. Duolingo also points out that they use specific numbers to track their business, like monthly active users and daily active users, but these metrics are estimates and might not be perfect. Other companies might measure these differently, so it's not always an apples-to-apples comparison. First up, the balance sheet. It's a summary of what the company owns and owes. As of March 31, 2025, Duolingo had total assets of about $1.4 billion. This is up from about $1.3 billion. This is up from about $1.3 billion at the end of last year. Cash and cash equivalents, which is basically money in the bank, were about $884 million. They have a bunch of short-term investments too. And they also have liabilities, debts basically. The biggest liability is deferred revenue, which is money they've already collected for subscriptions that haven't been used yet, about $415 million. At the end of last year, for Finchov, Term Enable, they have a bunch of short-term investments too. And they also have liabilities, debts basically. The biggest liability is deferred revenue, which is money they've already collected for subscriptions that haven't been used yet, about $415 million. Now, let's look at the income statement, which shows how much money Duolingo made and spent. For the 3 months ended March 31, 2023, $1 million, but it also cost them money to do business. Their cost of revenue, which includes things like payment processing fees and hosting fees, was about $67 million. Research and development cost them $70 million, and the marketing effort cost them $27 million. The research and development cost them $70 million, and the marketing effort cost them $27 million. General and administrative expenses, which includes things like salaries for executives and legal fees, were about $67 million. Research and development cost them $70 million, and the marketing effort cost them $27 million. General and administrative expenses, which includes things like salaries for executives and legal fees, were about $43 million. This is what remains after everything is paid for. The cash flow statement tells us how money moved in and out of the company. In this quarter, Duolingo's net cash provided by operating activities, which is the cash they generate from their normal business, was about $106 million. They also use some cash for investing activities like stock options being exercised. Overall, their cash equivalents, and restricted cash increased by about $98 million. Looking at the key metrics, we can see some interesting trends. Monthly active users, MAUs, a measure of how many people use Duolingo each month, increased from 97.6 million to 130.2 million. That is a 33% increase. Daily active users, DAUs, a measure of how many people use Duolingo each day, also increased from 31.4 million to 46.6 million. A jump of nearly 50%. Paid subscribers, the people who actually pay for Duolingo, also went up from 7.4 million to 10.3 million. That is a 33% increase. Daily active users, DAUs, a measure of how many people use Duolingo each day, also increased from 31.4 million to 46.6 million. A jump of nearly 50%. Paid subscribers, the people who actually pay for Duolingo, also went up from 7.4 million to 10.3 million. That is a very good increase. All this is great news. It means more people are using Duolingo, total using Duolingo, total bookings, which is the total. Finally, let's look at earnings per share, which shows how much profit each share of stock gets. Basic earnings per share, a calculation of all the earnings divided by all the shares available, was $0.78 per share, and diluted earnings per share, and diluted earnings per share, and diluted earnings per share, which factors in anything that could create new shares, was 0.72 cents per share, and diluted earnings per share, which factors in anything that could create new shares, was 0.72 cents per share. Duolingo operates as a single segment, and its revenues come from subscriptions, ads, the English test, and in-app purchases. There isn't any major part of Duolingo's business that makes ant-sized amount of revenue or is growing way faster than another, for example, some cloud business a company might have. They're all moving roughly in the same direction. Duolingo notes that they have concentration of risk in the accounts receivable. Two companies, Apple and Google, represent a large portion of the amount they expect to receive, something to keep an eye on. The business also has a letter of credit for almost $3 million. This is probably related to some office or real estate that they have, so if they default, they can pay for it with that. Finally, the report declares that no company executives made any changes to their pre-arranged stock trading plans, which is usually standard practice. So what's the story here? Duolingo has grown at a rapid pace. User numbers are up, paid subscribers are up, and revenue is up. The company is profitable, it is generating a lot of cash, and the financial performance is pretty great. The risks are also very standard too. Duolingo is in a good position to continue to grow, but they need to manage their costs carefully and make sure they keep their users happy. One potential risk is the increase of AI language tools. Could this affect their revenue as users adopt these services for free? Also, Duolingo depends a lot on Google and Apple app stores. If those relationships were to sour, that could cause big problems. Overall, Duolingo's report is strong. Revenue, user engagement, and paying customers are all growing, so things are looking great for the company. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give us a like, comment below, and subscribe for more financial deep dives.